They need to make sure SALT is in it. Immigration is SALT. Immigration would definitely be in it. But they're really pushing SALT. It means a great deal to our California members, New York members, and actually our New Jersey members. So that is one area that they're pushing him hard on.
Got you. So how much of this is pep rally versus negotiation versus productivity? You've got a lot of factions, as we've discussed. In this Republican conference, is it Donald Trump's job to bring them together so they can come back to Washington to start writing legislation, or to make a deal that they can go home with?
So I think it's really, believe it or not, going to be a combination of both.
Yeah.
He is trying to rally them, get them on the same page, have them spend time together, doing fun activities like we already mentioned, and playing some golf. But there is a lot of business that's being discussed as well. You know, the one bill, they need the budget, Rex. I mean, they need to get all these things done by the end of February, and then go into hopefully the one bill. I wasn't sure about one bill or two, but now I'm convinced it's one bill, because I think we are going to have some Democratic help. So one bill, it's a little bit easier for the Democrats to swallow.
Well, so does John Thune need to be part of this retreat as well? It's one thing for House Republicans and the president to be on the same page, but the Senate's the other factor here.
It certainly is, and I know the Speaker is very much in touch with the Senator, so I know he's not there, but I would be surprised if the Speaker's not on the phone with him occasionally this weekend.
Interesting. You just mentioned some of the ingredients here, not the least of which is salt, pun intended, but you've got no tax on tips. We talked to Kevin Brady about this at the end of last week. No tax on overtime, so many different things that would be put into one bill that you start wondering what gets left out. Are we going to have a debt ceiling as part of this? Will emergency funding for wildfires and hurricanes be part of this? Because now we're in a world where there's something for everyone and no one can say no. Is that the plan?
True. I definitely think the emergency funding will be put into it. Not sure about other things, but this is going to be a massive bill. I mean, there's no doubt about that. It's going to encompass a lot of things that the House, frankly, has needed and needs to get done. So hopefully the Senate, fingers crossed, will go along with some of these initiatives that are in this bill. But the other reason they want it in one bill is because we all know there's some Republicans that do not vote like Republicans, don't really care about what the leadership thinks, and they have to pick some of the Democrats off to get it through, which means you have to put things in the bill that the Democrats want, like the funding for California, fire in North Carolina, and we already talked about SALT. So it's an interesting play here, but it's going to be a huge bill, and there's really nothing you can do about it.
Well, and huge in terms of potential price tag as well when we're thinking of dollar figures. And some of those members you're referring to are people who are very fiscally conservative and want to see requisite spending cuts along with this. Give us an idea of the pay-fors that are actually going to be discussed over the next few days in these rooms.
So the pay-fors, they're going to go through, with Elon Musk's help, go through every single division in the government and see where they can cut. Medicare, Medicaid, I know they've talked about that. Social Security, I don't really see that being viable down at the end. I don't think the members of the Republican Ministry Partnership would vote for cuts in those three areas. But there is a lot of waste in the federal government. I mean, let's be honest here. So if we can find some of that for offsets, that's where they'd prefer to go. But we also do know President Trump does not mind debt. I mean, he has it in his personal business. I mean, he doesn't mind it. I realize there's some Democrats or some Republicans that are really opposed to it, but the president really is not opposed to it. So I think that he'll be comfortable with not finding total offsets.
Called himself the king of debt, if you remember that a couple of years ago.
Did.
Why not get a little more? With that said, then, you start wondering about the calendar. And a very ambitious approach at one point by Mike Johnson. He said he wanted a budget bill up for a vote the end of February. That would require a small miracle at this point, I assume. But what's the realistic timetable here? They have a few months to play with.
They do. They really have until the end of the year.
Yeah.
So, but please, let's not go to the end of the year, please. I think probably March into April is a realistic
in the first
time.
half.
Hopefully in the first half, because there is other business that they need to get onto. So they're hoping by the holiday break in April, they hope to have something done.
And debt ceiling is part of that?
Debt ceiling is going to have to be. Wow. We're running out of money.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it didn't get taken care of last year. I understand that. I actually agreed with President Trump that he wanted to get it done then. So that needs to get done again the first quarter of this year. So a lot on the table that needs to get done before April.
Well, especially when you consider the Treasury Department already for the last week has been implementing extraordinary measures that only can go so far, potentially to the summer if we're lucky. I do wonder, though, and you refer to what Donald Trump was asking for at the end of last year, if it's going to be just a temporary extension of the debt ceiling for some period of time, or if his suggestion that it should be done away with entirely is something that can become reality.
I know that the Republican Main Street Partnership members would pretty much like it done entirely. Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren, agrees with us on that, which I don't think has ever happened before.
That,
but it would be better for the country. Then we wouldn't have to go through this exercise. We always end up increasing it anyway. So it'd be nice to get it off the table. But that's going to have to get done in the next few weeks.
We talk about spending cuts. There are some areas that you've isolated where spending increases could in fact be the case, and the Pentagon's going to be one of them. Rick Davis was the first to mention the first $1 trillion defense budget. Will that be the story in this bill that we're talking about, $1 trillion on the Pentagon?
I think it will be. It's going to be.
Main Street would be behind that?
I think so, at least most of the members. Obviously, one of our members, Ken Calvert, is the appropriator over the Defense Department. But we've given a lot to Ukraine. We have to rebuild what we've given to Ukraine. So that's part of this as well. Plus, we need new technology. Right. I don't know if we're going to fight any more ground wars. It's probably going to be intelligence wars, AI-type wars. So we need to up our game in that area. And then, of course, I know he wants to spend some of the money on the border for the immigration problem.
Well, to that point, how does the Main Street Partnership, how do the members feel about the way in which the border crackdown is going so far? The deportations, we've seen a very small trade war that started and ended, it seemed, over the weekend over the deportation of migrants. Are they happy with everything they're seeing?
They're absolutely happy with it. I mean, immigration is number one issue. I think that's probably why President Trump was able to be elected again, and they want the border cleaned up, and the people in their districts want this border cleaned up. So I think he had a very successful, so far so good on that. And it was kind of interesting to see how he dealt with the president. President kind of caved. President Trump said, okay, we won't send them on military planes, we'll send them on commercial. So I think there was some negotiation there. It worked out, and we'll continue to send them home.